Hello there. The following video is a destructive test of my 8th version of wooden armor. Each of the slats have little notches cut into them. This allows the boards to sit more closely together. As this is a continuation of previous tests, I am not going to be testing every weapon against this panel. This is just a test to see if gapping has improved over the previous version. The knife struck one of the shoulders between two of the cutaways, splitting it away. The knife is incapable of penetrating when it strikes directly. The knife struck a gap and penetrated very deeply. And again. And again. Another gap. Again, it struck near the edge of the board and split off the bit between the two cutaways. And again, it splits off the bit between the two cutaways. The shoulder between the cutaways is especially vulnerable on this style of construction. Not only is it less supported by the rest of the wood, but it lacks any reinforcement from the cords. It should be noted, however, that even when the armor fails to prevent penetration, it is still of some value. Without the armor in the way, I can bury that knife up to the hilt in that straw bale. 1 inch of reduction in terms of a stab wound can make all the difference in terms of saving your life. I'm quite disappointed by this armor so far. I had high hopes, thinking it to be a solution to my gapping problem. While it is an improvement over some of my versions, it is by no means a solution. I'm going to try it with the bow now. Something I just noticed is that each of the arrows has a different and distinct sound. One of the quirks of things being handmade, I guess. Here the arrow struck above the binding and split the board part way, penetrating a bit over an inch. Here the arrow struck in one of the cutaways and penetrated very deeply. This is the sound of a bowstring breaking, along with all my hopes and dreams. It was a very unpleasant experience that I would not recommend. It jarred my arm something terrible. Here it struck a gap and penetrated about a ½ inch. Here it struck a gap and penetrated very deeply. Here we see the armor after my first round of testing. Some of the cords have been cut and some of the shoulders have been split away. However, there is minimal damage to the boards themselves. Over the next couple of hours I made myself a new bowstring and was able to resume testing. The arrow struck a gap and penetrated very deeply. It's odd shooting into a moldy old straw bale. Sometimes they penetrate up to the fletchings and sometimes they just bounce off. The arrow struck the board directly, split it partly, and penetrated about 1/8 of an inch. The arrow again struck a gap and penetrated several inches. And again. The arrow struck a gap and penetrated about 1 inch. The arrow struck a board directly, split it part way, and penetrated about 1 inch. The arrow struck above the binding and penetrated several inches. In conclusion, this armor performed much better than the previous armor with partial binding. However, it did not perform as well as the armor with complete binding. I consider this armor to be quite functional. However, you could do better if you were willing to put in a bit more time. And that's all I have to say about that. Bye-bye.